What's up, yo? Welcome to Frankly Hockey. That is the Hockey Insider, Frank Seravalli. I am John Buccigross. Victory Plus X YouTube. Like, subscribe, hug, stick tap, chat. Get your questions in, interact. Let's get right to it. After 15 games last night, Frank, just 2 tonight. Bruins at Buffalo, Rangers at Maple Leafs. Buffalo, 2-point lead on Tampa Bay with 11 to play. Bolts have a game in hand. Sabres more regulation wins. Bruins first wild card for now. Game in hand on Islanders, who are a point back. Maple Leafs 10th worst record in the league. 10 games left. Remember that whole Bruins top 5 number 1 draft pick thing. And the Rangers are second worst in the league now. Second best lottery odds. But a little hot streak. They could go all the way up to 4 or 5. So a couple games tonight after, again, 15 last night. Franks and Beans. Let's get to it. Ducks, first 40-win season, Frank, since 2018. Last time they reached the postseason, they're trying to snap a 7-game playoff drought, 7-year playoff drought. That's third longest. We've heard about the Sabres, 14, Red Wings, 9, then Ducks at 7. So Joel Quenneville, Pat Verbeek, they've brought this thing back. They should be good for a while now.
I loved hearing their owner, Henry Samueli, before the season started, said, I want the playoffs back. I want to experience that again. And he's getting his wish.
A 5-point lead in the Pacific with a game in hand for Anaheim. It's looking pretty good. 11 games left. John Carlson, 3 assists last night, Frank. He's got 40 on the year, the oldest defenseman in Duck history to post a 3-assist game. How about the Oilers? Really good playoff-type win in Utah last night. 1 point ahead of the Golden Knights. McDavid goes 400 and 401, .1200. He almost had the 800 assist, 1,200 point on the same puck. But luckily, it was a goal, so now he got the 1,200th point, so he can have 3 separate pucks. I asked the question last night on the ESPN Plus. Do you think he collects pucks for every 100 points, or does he do it every 500? Because if you're Connor McDavid, you don't need every 100, right?
No, I'm collecting the big boys.
Even numbers?
500 goals, 1,000 points, 500 points, and that's it. I mean, what are you going to do? Walk around with a puck bag in your house?
Yeah, I'm sure he does every 100 goals. So I think he's going to get 100. I think he'll get to 800 personally. So I think he'll have those. But yeah, for points, I'm thinking just do 500, 1,000, 1,500, and maybe he'll be only the second guy with 2,000 points. I've been pushing for Crosby to play till he's 43 so he can do it because only Wayne has 2,000 points. But Connor getting 1,200 before he turns 30. And he loves hockey. He'll be in great shape. I think he'll be good in his 30s, though he's 37, like Sid. He's got a good chance for 2,000 points.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the only player to get to 2,000 other than Wayne. We talked about this yesterday. I was going to say, and I want to throw this at you. So Paul Maurice hits 2,000 games coached last night. There's Lindy Ruff behind him at 1927. Then after him, there's Joel Quenneville at 1839. Who is anyone else going to get to 2,000?
Well, again, you look at John Cooper as we become more healthier.
12 seasons
for sure, but
to get to
he's only 58.
Him and Paul Maurice are the same age.
Right. We're going to 84 games a year. So now you last 10 years, that's 840, right? So that's going to give you 840. And he's still only 68. He might coach till he's 80. All these health benefits, Frank, we're going to get in the next few years. People are going to live to be 120. We're going to have coaches who are 85 years old in the NHL someday, Frank.
Not pre-diabetic me. Relax.
We're going to have 50-year-old wingers. I'm telling you, it's going to be unbelievable. Cole Caulfield, 44 goals. Second most in the NHL to Nathan McKinnon, who got his 46th last night in Pittsburgh. That began the scoring. The Canadiens beat the Canes, and Dobish, 41 saves, Frank, .953 save percentage. If Montreal can get some saves from their goalies, they're going to be an exciting playoff team to watch.
I see a stat going around that's like, look at the Canadiens' record when they have a 900 save percentage or better. It's like, yeah, and I mean, what team is truly horrific when they have a 900 save percentage or better? I don't really understand the nature of the stat. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And by the way, this just came through the inbox. Our guy Donnie Meatballs, Don Granato, has been named head coach of the U.S. national team for the Worlds.
Oh, good. Good for Donnie. He's certainly got a long history with USA Hockey. developing players. Austin Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk, when those guys were teenagers, Donnie was certainly at the helm there, helping to develop them, and he developed some players in Buffalo. Tage Thompson, I think he brought him to a whole other level in Buffalo and made him a lot of money. So that's awesome to hear. Meanwhile, the Maple Leafs are 3-8-4 since the break. They entered the game against the Bruins last night with the worst record in hockey since the Olympic break, but they beat the Bruins last night. That got to feel a little good. Pastrnak season-long 10-game point streak, but it's not enough. So the Maple Leafs, we talked about, if they finish in the 5 or 1 in the draft situation, then they'll get to keep their first-round pick, and they could get there through the lottery, right, Frank? They go from 10 to 5, they get the pick.
Yeah, they could go from 7 to 1 or whatever it might be. Right now, they're on track to be kind of in that 7-8 spot.
Yep.
But maybe last night, if you want to be truly conniving, last night was a way that the Boston Bruins are trying to ensure that they get to keep that Leafs pick inside the top 10.
That's right. Yeah, so give them that too. Still grind to make the playoffs. That's the best of both worlds. But if they don't make it, then they get two possible lottery picks. They probably won't be able to move up enough to get one with their pick. You only go up. But certainly they're keeping an eye on that Toronto pick. The Lightning extend their point streak to 5, so they're playing well again. Radish tied the Tampa Bay record for most goals by defensemen. He hit the 20 mark. Boyle and Hedman, the other two Tampa Bay defensemen in their history to score 20 goals in a season. That dude's price just keeps going up. He's going to get a gigantic contract in the offseason in a weak free agent field. You can have a veteran right-handed shot defenseman who can play some tough minutes. He can make a play. He can run your power play if you want, or just be a flank shooter on your power play if you already have a point guy. Like, he's that good. I think he'll be a valuable free agent sign. The Wild, they're kind of scuffling right now. I mean, this is the time to scuffle. You don't want to scuffle in April, especially when the playoffs start, because that can happen sometimes. Teams enter the playoffs flat sometimes, and that's their lull. The Wild lull is now 3-4-2 in their last 9, Frank. Any concern in your mind as you look at their roster? I know they got a couple of injuries, X kind of banged up and stuff like that. What do you think about the Wild? I think they're just the malaise of waiting for the playoffs to start?
Part of it is that. I think part of it, too, is they have been pretty injured. And I think what's really going to be interesting in Minnesota is some of the difficult lineup decisions that they're going to have to make once everyone is healthy. I mean, they have an abundance of forwards particularly, and you're going to see probably some big name, high profile, I just mean in yesteryear terms, you're going to see some guys that are going to be sitting out as healthy scratches as they try and get their lineup right. So keep an eye on that. I mean, they've got hard decisions coming.
They play at Florida tomorrow on ESPN, so they get to enjoy. Some teams go to Florida and they play back-to-back, and they never get to enjoy a sunny day in Florida, get some vitamin D, and maybe they need that after a long, cold winter in Minnesota. So they get today off. Today in Florida, South Florida, even better. And so then they'll play the Panthers tomorrow, see if they play guilty, and have a great game tomorrow against the Panthers. Matthew Schaefer, time on ice. I know Tony Angelo got hurt. D'Angelo got hurt early. Only played 6 minutes. But he played 31:59. That's not an overtime padded number, Frank. 31:59 for an 18-year-old. That has to be a record. I don't know if we're keeping these records, but who knows? Maybe someone did, but that's unbelievable.
It actually is a record. It's a record for most minutes ever logged by a teenager in NHL history. But the interesting thing is you have to go back to, it only goes to like 1998, 99 was the first year they kept time on ice statistics. So 27 years-ish. That's what we're looking at. What's way more impressive is how much of a factor he was in the game and dominating when he was on the ice. So this stat is courtesy of 19 consecutive. I saw this on X. So when Schaefer was on the ice during that 31:58, the Islanders generated 59 shot attempts while only allowing 21 against. So with that, they had 30 shots that actually made it to the net and allowed just 12, and they outscored the Hawks 2-0 while Schaefer was on the ice. So that means inversely, the 28:02 that Schaefer was on the bench, the Islanders only outshot Chicago by a 17-12 margin and were outscored 4-1. You want to win? You put Matthew Schaefer on the ice.
Incredible. Just incredible. I noticed I noticed Logan O'Connor was back on the ice tonight for the Avalanche, and you saw multiple scrums involving him. That's a key player in that team, Frank. They thought he was going to be ready in November when he didn't start the season, but here we are finally in March, and he gives that Avalanche team just another level of depth and just a different kind of player.
I thought that was an interesting response from Avs because they played against the Penguins a little while ago and lost 6-2. It was actually just recently, 7-2 on the 16th of March. So 7 days earlier. And they got throttled to then punch back a team in Pittsburgh, which has a lot more to play for, given where they are in the standings. I mean, now they're in this dogfight with Columbus for home ice. That I just thought that was an appropriate and interesting response from Colorado at a time when they kind of feel like they need it.
Yeah, Marty Necas, who scored twice, kind of mentioned that embarrassing home loss to the Penguins. Like that was on their mind. This game was circled a little bit just to kind of, they've had a nice little road trip here, Frank. They've won their first 3 games. I think, we see some other teams, the Stars, winless in 4 of their last 5, 1-3-1. They remain 5 points ahead of the Wild, who are also kind of just scuffling a little bit. Those 2 teams now are kind of drooping, but here comes the Avalanche now as they get healthy, and looking forward to get Lehkonen and Landeskog and the whole team going. I think they're thinking, okay, let's start to really focus on that cup. It's been in our mindset all year long. We got off that amazing start, so obviously they were ready to start the season. They were energized by Landeskog. McKinnon, that pressure kind of leaves him, and Gabe can take everything, and I think McKinnon loves that. And here they are. They win 3 of their first 4 games on this road trip that finishes up in Winnipeg on Thursday.
Yeah. Speaking of cup, thank God for that cup for Gabriel Landeskog.
Oof. It's amazing you can still cause damage even with it on. But yeah, my goodness, if it wasn't.
I've seen them shattered. I've seen them like lying on the floor in the dressing room in pieces. So yeah, it happens.
Makes me think we should all wear cups all the time. As we, go to the grocery store. You never know. It could come up. Just have that cup on.
I can't, it's total aside, I cannot get my kid to wear a cup playing hockey. He's a peewee.
I never wore one playing baseball. Yeah, I never wore one playing baseball. I played baseball until I was 18, never wore a cup.
Next year's his 12-year-old season, and he has never worn one and refuses to wear one. And in fact, sometimes he plays goalie in practice and still refuses to wear one. I'm like, buddy, you're going to get it, and then you're going to experience it, and then you're not going to ever want to wear one.
I never caught either, so I've never actually worn a cup in my life. I played sports through high school, a little bit of college, so never wore a cup.
Way too much cup talk.
Yeah, I know. Because it's the cup, Frank. Because it's the cup. There are no words. The
athletic supporter.
All right. Let's get to the Frankly Hockey Rundown here on the Victory Plus app, X, YouTube. Thanks again so much for watching. Interact. Let us know what's on your mind. Let's start with the Ottawa Senators. Here come the Senators. They win in New York on Monday. They win last night in Detroit. They call up 2 rookies, Yakimchuk and Donovan, Frank. Both made their debut last night. First time in Senators history, 2 defensemen make their debut in the same game. They beat the Red Wings, who fall to 2-4-1 in their last 7. The Sens have won 4 in a row, 8 of 10. No Sanderson, no Shabbat. Sanderson's close to coming back, and looks like Shabbat is not. That's like done for the regular season. But here is Ottawa, Frank, and as you look at this and you try to wrap your head around it, if I have them in the top 8, I think they're going to make the playoffs.
I don't know how they couldn't with the mojo that they have at this point in time. I mean, think about how everything is stacked against this team. You're missing not 1 or 2, but 5 defensemen, and the most significant ones at that in Sanderson and Shabbat. Then throw in a true stalwart defender in Nick Jensen. And you try and make sense of, okay, the next part is the schedule. They're away on the island, away at the Garden and play the Rangers. Then the following night are playing a team that's hot on their tail to stay in the mix is the Detroit Red Wings. Detroit had everything in front of them last night. Dylan Larkin's coming back. You've got a tired team that you're facing that's banged up and missing all these players. And yet somehow it's the Sens who are able to prevail with a gutty effort. And I go back to right before we restarted play following the Olympics. And the question was, which team in the East has the best chance to go on a run and make it in? I said the Sens, but only if they got the goaltending. Well, Butchie, how about this? Of their last 20 games, 14 of them, they've allowed 2 goals or fewer. That's how you do it. That's how you get in. And they have earned it the hard way. Now, if they could somehow get Sanderson back soon enough, and then the magic that's kind of come with this too. Yakimchuk, a coveted prospect in their system, makes his NHL debut, is pressed into action to make his NHL debut in Detroit last night, and comes away with this for his first NHL goal. I mean, they've done it the hard way, and they deserve a ton of credit.
Big boy fakes the slap shot, dangles, snipes a twisted wrister, celebrates along the glass. Everyone's going crazy. Rockets in attendance. It's just an amazing moment. There's the family. Always a great shot. Red Bull is flowing. Mom is clapping. She's happy, and just all kinds of traffic in front of John Gibson. But, man, that is a performance. He was the 7th overall pick in the Macklin Celebrini draft in 2024. And Jorian Donovan was the 136th overall pick in 2022. And they both make their debut for the Sens. And I did my little Eastern Conference power rankings last night on X while I was doing the intermissions of the ESPN Plus games. I still got Tampa 1 with their playoff experience. Carolina still 2. I like their offense. I got Buffalo at number 3. I think Columbus has been good enough for 2 months. The way they're dominating 5-on-5 hockey, I have them the 4th best team. I got Ottawa, the 5th best team in the East, Frank. Then Montreal, and then everybody. I got the Penguins 7. I still, despite last night, the Penguins have been good for most of the year. I still think they have another push in them with their veterans and all the guys that are having career years. I still think they have they'll win 3 out of 4 here a couple of times down the stretch. And then for me, tied for 8th, Boston, Detroit, Islanders. To me, they're all the same right now. They're flawed. Obviously, everybody's a little bit flawed, even Penguins, even Montreal, even Ottawa with injuries, and they put themselves in this position. But I think Ottawa is the legitimate 5th best team in the East now.
As you just rolled through your power rankings, the first thing I thought of is that I think you're sleeping on Montreal. I think they're better than you've given them credit for.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the goaltending that stands out, right? You're muted. You pressed your button there.
My bad. I'm back. Bucci's back. So you said who with the goaltending now?
I said that I think the team that you're sleeping on is Montreal, and it's probably because of the goaltending as you went through your power rankings.
Yeah, and the youth a little bit. Again, they're kind of, to me, they look like solid. Then suddenly a couple games, and Caulfield's red hot. If he stops scoring a little bit, what will happen? But yeah, last night, Slafkovsky, Demidov, and Caulfield all score. Dobish makes a ton of saves. And yeah, so it was tough right there. Obviously, it's very close from 5 to 12, but yeah, the East is very interesting that I think Buffalo and Columbus are legitimate teams now when you're so good that long in a regular season. But yeah, Ottawa is back. They pull into that playoff position.
So real quick, 12 games left.
Yeah.
Do you think Caulfield can get to 50? He needs 6.
Yeah, I think he can with empty netters, multiple empty netters and teams pulling their goalie. And I think they'll push into, Marty St. Louis will get him out there in those situations as their playoff position becomes more and more solidified, if it does. And I think it will, with 4 or 5 games to go. He'll get him out there in every empty net. He'll get him out there in power plays down the stretch, even if it's 5-2. Not 10-1, but 5-2 third period late power play. He'll be out there, maybe even stay out for the whole 2. So I do think he's going to push for Caulfield to get 50, and that'll help him do it.
Yeah, only 6 away.
Do it.
1 goal every other game.
Do it. Can we talk about the Predators? 5 wins in a row. 5 goals on 7 shots against San Jose. Their 14th straight win against the Sharks. That is the longest active win streak, Frank, by one team against another in the league right now. 14 in a row. And I think with that season-long 5th straight win, they buried the Sharks. They beached them. The Sharks are done now. Season over. Start looking towards next year. I think that's what the Predators did last night. What a story. whether it was hiring Nick Saban and having a news conference, whether it was just the pride of, we talk about on the show on Monday, Steven Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly and all these guys that decided, hey, let's pull together and do this. Then they make those trades at the deadline. We ran the sound with Andrew Burnett on Frankly Hockey. It looked like the poor guy's soul came out of his body. It's like, I can't believe we're giving up. And here they are, Frank. I think they pretty much clinched the playoff spot last night. I think they're in an amazing position now.
They are now. I mean, they've created a significant gap. I mean, you look at where the Preds are, and look, it's not going to be any picnic being wild card 2. Can they possibly run down Utah for wild card 1? Probably not, but not out of the realm of possibility. And I think a lot of what you mentioned, it's obviously Nick Saban, right? That's the big difference.
Obviously.
But I think it's the pride factor. Steven Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, these are hardened vets that desperately want to win, and they want to play in Nashville. That's the statement that they made this trade deadline, is they don't want to go anywhere. And they've had the rights to manage that. And had they raised their hand and said, yeah, get me out of here, I want to play on a playoff team, I think their thought process was, playoff team, we could be one. Now, it helps that no one else has really stepped up and wanted it. I mean, you mentioned that they stuffed out the San Jose Sharks. They also beat Winnipeg. They also beat Seattle during this stretch, as you saw on their schedule. They've kind of, stabbed anyone else in contention in the throat here as they've gone along.
They got the Devils tomorrow. I know the Devils won last night in Dallas, but they're still the Devils. So that could be another one for them. That could be 6 in a row. Home to the Canadiens Saturday night. Again, a young team against this veteran team. That could be a game that they'll probably be slightly favored. I imagine Nashville will. They do got to go to Tampa then, the final game of the month on the 29th. But their April schedule, they do go west at L.A., but they're better than L.A. now. At Sharks, again, if they want to keep that streak going against the Sharks. They go to Anaheim, go to Utah. That's a pretty long road trip there to finish the season. So they can't lose 4 in a row and stumble there. But then they come back home for the last 3 games of the year. Wild, Sharks again, and Ducks again. So we'll see if Anaheim's resting people at that point, the last game of the year right before the playoffs start, if they get the Pacific all wrapped up. So I think it's pretty good for Nashville here. They put themselves in a great position. Last night's regulation win, coming out and just lighting up Nedeljkovic, who apparently he wasn't coming out under any circumstances last night, Frank.
Yeah. 5 goals on 7 shots. If you're not coming out then, you're going to have to just sleep with it.
LA could have hung around, but they don't take care of Calgary in regulation. It goes to a shootout and they lose. So they only get the 1 point. And as you can see, they played 71 games, only 11 games to go. We're about to enter single digit land in the NHL schedule coming up by this weekend. Blackhawks arriving. Is that a question mark or a period, Frank? Blackhawks arriving or Blackhawks arriving? Anton Frondell picks up his first NHL point. He played 15:43. Our boy Craig Button was on the show the other day, and like this here, Bedard says, hey, your first shift, your first game, you take the opening faceoff against Bo Horvat. See how you like it. That was cool by Bedard. And, of course, Horvat won it as cleanly as you can win a faceoff. Almost got a shot on his own net. But still, this is an amazing dime pass. And our boy Craig Button says, reminds me of Barkov, and that's a very Barkov kind of play. Just a tape-to-tape dime. Mikheyev skates. Again, the pass isn't a bad. He can just fly right in. He follows Mikheyev as well. If there's a rebound there, Frondell's right there to follow the shot. Watch him follow the shot, go right to the net himself. What do you think, Frank? The Blackhawks slowly, these are the kind of guys that they need to add, and they add last night.
Oh, it's arriving, period, with a statement. This is what they've been building for. This is the number 3 overall pick who had a monster season in Sweden, one of the best U20 seasons that anyone has ever had. Not many guys make it to 20 goals in the Swedish Hockey League. He did. And he's right up there in terms of production with the Sedins and other guys. And I think what's different about Anton Frondell is that he was arguably, along with Cole Hudson and TJ Ginla, the best player not currently playing in the NHL. And now, as you put him on a line with Connor Bedard to get his feet wet in the NHL, what was abstract for the longest time for the Chicago Blackhawks is now becoming tangible and real. These guys are now in the lineup. They're here. And next season, they'll be ready to hit the ground running. I do believe that comparison. I'm not saying he's going to win multiple Selke trophies and Stanley Cups like Alexander Barkov did, but that same style, it applies. He's heavy. He's sturdy. Yesterday, while you were traveling, we had Joe Snively on, who played with him this year in Djurgården, former NHLer Joe Snively. And he said, I'd be on the foam roller before games and Anton Frondell would be squatting 330 pounds before the game as an 18-year-old. Impressive. So it's not just the vision, his ability to score from anywhere, but this is a special, special player. And what I really liked about watching last night's game, Connor Bedard looked like he had rocket fuel. He had some serious pep in his step to play with someone like Frondell. It's not all on him anymore. He's got running mates, Nazar, other guys in the lineup. Ryan Green is going to be a real sturdy player. They've got something cooking there in Chicago. And now for the first time, you can say everyone's arriving at the same time.
Yeah, someone like Bedard wants to play with someone as close to his talent as possible, whether exactly the same, a little above, or a little below. It's like when you play golf. The better you get at golf, you're better off playing with good players. That's how you get better at golf. Mainly an athletic endeavor. You need to play with people as good as you. If you play against crappy tennis players, you're never going to get any better. You need to play against good players, and sometimes you need to play with good players like Connor Bedard. We see with Connor McDavid. Once Leon went down, his frustration became palpable and vocal to the point of talking about the coach and talking about pillow fights. Now, again, he brought it together last night, Connor, and he brought it. They played a checking playoff style game and smothered Utah, and I thought they embarrassed Utah. That Utah was not ready to play that kind of game. And I would be worried as a Mammoth fan. Do we know how to play playoff games? Because you better learn how to check and play and give it back in the playoffs, because it's a different sport. So for Bedard to get that guy next to him, yeah, that's a great point, Frank, that he is going to be energized and motivated this summer when he's going to, because that was the story last summer. He figured out his training and got way faster. And I bet he does it again this year. What's my next tweak? And how can I get more powerful? Or how can I do whatever? Because now I know I'm thinking about this guy. He's probably going to go back to Sweden this year. And then maybe he might come over to Chicago early to hang out with Bedard. Maybe they get to Chicago like, mid-August and start skating together before camp starts and really start to bond. But yeah, that should be very exciting for Blackhawk fans. And can any of those other guys pop, or is the next guy a third star? Because you need to keep adding stars. Like you need that third guy and the fourth guy. Like you look at Florida the last 2 years. Obviously Barkov you mentioned, and then they get Tkachuk, and then Verhaeghe pops for a little bit like a 30-goal guy. And then Sam Reinhart, future Hall of Famer, is a guy who develops. And it's like, who's going to be that third, fourth, fifth Blackhawk guy, right? Gustav Forsling, who came out of nowhere to be a shutdown dude, along with Ekblad, who plays his game, and along with Seth Jones. So that's the thing now with Chicago, Frank. Is that on the team, on the roster, in the organization, or will it come from somewhere else?
Well, they've got it. It's just a matter of who's going to pop. Is it going to be Sam Rinzel, who, watching him at Minnesota, I thought he was ahead of Brock Faber. And Brock Faber, amazingly enough, has proven me incorrect. Like, Rinzel has not been at that level. He's had a little bit of a confidence issue. He's got all the tools. Artem Levshinov has all the tools. Clearly, we've seen it on display. He's a number 2 overall pick. Will one of those guys pop and become the next one, particularly on their back end when they need it? Hugely important question. Which defenseman is it going to be?
And funny, as you just said that, and we talked to Drance the other day, and he was talking about maybe some of these teams should offer a big ticket for shorts. So would you bring in someone like Darren Radish to take them, because they have no vets on that back line, right? And give them 3 years at $10 million just to kind of settle things down.
Zero chance.
No chance.
No.
All right.
Because
something like I'm thinking
there are no free agents to do that with. That's the thing.
Or trade
Radish. Yeah. I think Radish is a good player, but I think a lot of what Radish accomplishes is a product of the players he plays with and the system. That if you take Darren Radish and you put him on the Hawks, he probably has half the production that he has.
But even that philosophy, if they do, whether it's a little trade or something, they identify someone, just a 2-3 year window to get because we want these guys to carry the load. But is next year. Are they good enough now, even next year? Do we got to wait 2 or 3 more years? Might this be the way to do it?
Look how close San Jose is. Like, yep. I think when this all comes together, the Hawks are going to fly past San Jose because San Jose doesn't have any defensemen at all. Sam Dickinson is it. That's the guy.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be on their radar in this draft. If that you always should take the best player available, but I got a feeling that and they're probably going to be. They're going to actually. It's interesting, Frank. The Maple Leafs have more points than the Sharks.
Well, I was saving it for a later segment, but the Sharks are actually in the 8th spot in the draft lottery.
Right. So they could get a stud defense, another young. It is. It's really weird. Yeah, we'll hit the Sharks later. And I was like, oh my gosh, Maple Leafs have more points than the Sharks. And so they're going to get another really good player that might be the defenseman as some of these forwards go early. I mean, Verhoff will be gone by 3 or 4, but they could get a really good defenseman, or they could try to move up with someone. They have so much stuff. Maybe they could move up. We'll see. Actually, I wonder if the Blackhawks would be a partner with them if they have any prospect and they want to get to Verhoff. Oh well, that'd be interesting. Worst loss, Bruins or Islanders? Zadorov had an interesting quote after the game, and the Bruins lost at home. Both of these teams lost at home. Both the teams that are not going to make the playoffs. Zadorov, got to be better than that. I mean, it's important points for us at home. And to drop it like this, it's embarrassing. And he tried to fight Joshua to get him going. They got within 1 on the McAvoy goal, but then the empty netter at the end for Toronto. And you can see Toronto was going. They wanted to win that game. They were competing hard.
Well, and Easton Cowan deserves a ton of credit. After the way things went down with Austin Matthews, there was 0 chance that he wasn't heeding that message from Craig Berube in terms of stepping up. Look, honestly, I think this is a really good question because I don't know which one is more disappointing. Both of these, as you mentioned, to non-playoff teams, the Bruins have sort of been right there, but again, are not stepping up and watching a team like the Senators kind of come up from behind and take their mojo. So the Bruins are still like, they've had these opportunities to burst through and say, you know what, we're going to solidify ourselves in the playoffs. We're going to make this a no doubter. We're going to end the debate. And yet they haven't been able to do it. And the Islanders, that one quote from Patrick Waugh kind of really stuck with me last week, where it was like, hey, have you seen what these other teams are doing? And he's like, yeah, but we're winning too. And now as you looked at it, like they're kind of not. They're kind of just treading water here. Another team with tons of opportunity and runway in front of them that just haven't seized it.
Yeah, that's a little surprising. The Bruins, one issue is Geekie has 1 goal in March. So Pastrnak is trying to drag them the best he can. Luckily, he's got a 10-game point streak. If he didn't, the Bruins, I think, would be out by now. Like I said, with 1 goal from Geekie, they need him to score goals. Obviously, it's a team game. The other people can step in, and maybe he'll get a big kick here in the finish. He's getting assists recently, 5 assists in 3 games, but only 1 goal in March. That was a 6-3 loss to Nashville. So the Bruins need that from Geekie. What the Islanders need, again, they're kind of beat up on the back end, and we saw how much Schaefer played last night. But, I would think with the position they were in, Frank, I didn't see this one coming. I didn't think they would kind of sink here.
I didn't either. And I was thinking that, look, at some point earlier this season, this Vezina debate was a real thing, and it just hasn't been. Obviously, missing some of the guys that they are on their back end, you're thinking, okay, like you need someone to step up, but down 4-1 last night against the Blackhawks early. I mean, not a great situation. Their goaltending has failed them a little bit down this stretch. And like even post Olympic break, Ilya Sorokin 904, like he's been fine, but not shutting the door, leading this team into the playoffs. Vezina Ilya Sorokin, which he was distinctly in that conversation for earlier this year.
Agree. Yeah, he in a lot of ways he was carrying him like that and playing an incredible goal. And yeah, just to have the wave of offense, defense, bringing it all together. It's just not happening right now. I'm a little surprised. But again, you have one more stretch here, 10, 11 games. You go 8-2, then you're in. So it really is going to come down these 10-game increments we've talked about on the show before, and here we are. And by the way, Frank, Boston's first-round pick last June, James Higgins, the 7th overall pick in the draft. He'll wear number 12 with the Providence Bruins and make his debut tonight in Springfield against the Thunderbirds. So as the Bruins might look for an injection, I know they don't want to mess up maybe the chemistry they had, but now as they start to slip a bit, they do have a guy that, like we saw last night with Ottawa, two rookies, it gets a room going. Players think about their first game. They want to protect them like big brothers. They bring an energy to a team that I think can really help this time of year. And I think Higgins, if he goes out and has a good game, maybe tonight, looks very much in place, maybe gets 1-1 or is very, on the score sheet in a positive way, it might be one and done for him. He might be up right away to try to give this team some juice, or you think it's going to be 2 to 5 games? Or any
Look,
games?
I don't think it has anything to do with James Higgins and his readiness for the NHL or not. I think it has everything to do with organizational structure, a pecking order, and a rite of passage that everyone has to go through. From Patrice Bergeron to David Pasternak to Charlie McAvoy, it's not an accident that all of them got a taste of the AHL in Providence before making it to the NHL. They don't just hand you a roster spot. And I like that James Higgins, he's not going to sit back like Cutter Gauthier did and say, no, I'm not going to the AHL. I want to play directly in the NHL to start my entry-level contract. He said, nothing's earned. Nothing's given, must be earned. And I just thought that's a great perspective that he's buying into what they're selling.
Yeah, always thought he was a good kid, his 2 years at Boston College, and this does show a level of character to go do that. And it's close, which is nice. It's, his stuff is still in his Boston College dorm. He's still trying to figure that out. So it's nice maybe he can get settled in as a professional. And certainly New England's a good place. A lot of those teams in the AHL and the American League are also close together, just like in Hockey East. All right, certainly one of the stories of the year is the Columbus Blue Jackets, 19-3-4 under Rick Bowness. They slide into second place in the Metro. Their underlying numbers, Frank, are dominating 5-on-5 defense since he took over, the best in the league. This is a heavy team with veterans. They have star quality in Zach Werenski, who has 22 assists in his last 18 games. He was incredible last night with a goal and an assist. And I also want to highlight, and they have a star in Marchenko as well. He's a legit elite player. But I want to just give a shout out to Damon Severson, who in the last 8 games has 2 goals and 3 assists, a +5. He's got 31 points, Frank. Playing with Werenski lately is with a right-handed shot. Year 3 with Columbus. His 31 points already the most he's had since he signed that big contract. He's never been +17 in his career like he is now. So this team is becoming a veteran, heavy-ish. They got an edge. They have stars in Werenski and Marchenko. Obviously, a young guy like Fantilli. Charlie Coyle's having a career year. Boone Jenner is a heart and soul kind of guy that you win with. The goaltending has been good. Greaves is solid. Elvis has been better. This organization right now, like I said, that's why in the Eastern Conference, I got them as like the 4th best team, like legit team that could win maybe 2 playoff series. Forget 1.
Now, I'm not raining on the Blue Jackets parade at all. Do you think there's
Watch
any
your
hint
mouth,
of
mister.
recency bias there?
Well, but again, just like with the Sabres, we were talking about them in January and then early February. We're talking about 2 months now of elite, high-level 5-on-5 dominant, best defense in the league 5-on-5 hockey. So that's a big sample. 2 months. This isn't.
It's remarkable.
This is 26 games. It's like, again, it's not 40, but. And again, if you just look at the players individually and you break down the team, and Matejchuk's another really good young player. Connor Garland was a great ad. We talked about the Cam Atkinson vibes. I just think this is like a legit, really good veteran team with just good measurables all the way around. It just seems like legit team when you look at it now after 2 months.
Yeah, the defense and the way that they've changed under Rick Bowness is incredible. Where they were on the day that he took over to where they are now, it's bonkers. Look at this. January 12th, 28th in the league, last in the East, dead last in the Metro. And now today they've got home ice advantage if the playoffs were to start. And by the way, which would be an incredible, finally, a rivalry series first round matchup Columbus, Pittsburgh, the drivable first round series be tremendous. I just wonder, like, and again, I'm not throwing any shade at all, but we've seen other teams have really good 25, 30 game stretches and go into the playoffs and lose in the first round. I'm not saying they will, but I mean, the first team I thought of when I just was going through the recency bias thing was the Sens run with Andrew Hammond, the Hamburglar, to get into the postseason. I mean, they closed that year. I'm just doing this on the fly. They closed that year. They were 27, 23, and 11, and they finished 43, 26, and 13. So that means they went 16, 3, and 2, which is basically exactly what the Blue Jackets are now. To make the playoffs, they finished with 99 points, which is kind of exactly where the Blue Jackets are going to finish. And then in the first round, they lost to Montreal in 6 games.
Yep.
And then they
happen.
didn't really recover after that.
Right. It can happen. But again, since Rick Bowness took over, as Aaron Porchline tweeted this morning, just 45 on 5 goals allowed, 1.54 per game, best in the NHL. Like I said, they're not doing it with a hot goalie, a ridiculous goalie. And so it's really more about the team play. But, and Greaves is top 12 in save percentage. So he is in the he's the better upper half of the league in goaltending play. But certainly this is a team going right now that you want to play goalie for. You'll be good if you play for the Blue Jackets right now, the way they're going. And so we'll see. Can they keep it up?
Locked up the Norris?
If I got to vote this year, I think at this point right now he would be one on my ballot. Just barely over Cale Makar. It's close, but he's so and the importance to the team does help a little bit. He's got more responsibility because he doesn't really have a fellow superstar he can lean on, and he's a big factor. And we look at the other underlying numbers this year. It's really him and Makar. Numbers are gigantic. And so, if they can finish this off and they keep going these last, 10, 11 games and they're 8-2 again, I think he's going to get my vote, Frank.
Would he be in your top 5 on your heart?
Yeah, that's a tough one because certainly, defensemen are so important. And with 32 teams, it's difficult to try to figure that out. And obviously with the top 3, Kucherov, McDavid, especially if the Oilers get in and they have a good finish here without Draisaitl, and there's McDavid again with a massive season and 50 goals from McKinnon and 45. And of course, what Kucherov is doing, there's 3 guys right there. They got to be in the top 5. No.
But how many defensemen lead their team in scoring and by an 18-point margin, which is what Werenski has today?
For sure. Like I said,
he's got to be top. I think he's top 3 for me right now on my heart.
All right.
I think he's locked up Norris.
I like it. He's sublime. He's sublime. Is it over for the Flyers and the Sharks? Well, as we first reported on Frankly Hockey earlier in the show, we proclaimed it's over for the Sharks. It's probably been over for the Flyers for a while, but certainly they've made it interesting. But last night, the Columbus Blue Jackets, after falling down 1-0, again, just imposed their will. They stayed calm and just kind of bludgeoned the Flyers the rest of the way. And so, I think it's pretty much done for the Flyers. What about you, Frank?
I agree. I mean, a valiant run the last few weeks. That California road trip was important and I think solidified their compete level and some of their culture. But again, they're pulling themselves further away from a high quality draft pick. So they're kind of in the definition of the mushy middle. San Jose is way more interesting because they've had a great run. They sort of set that bar and standard. Macklin Celebrini exploded for 100 points as he closes in on that number. And this team is clearly in a strong position moving forward. And yet they're way ahead of the Flyers in terms of draft picks. San Jose's in the 8th spot. This is all by virtue of how poor the West and the Pacific are. Close enough to the playoffs to make for a really interesting March for San Jose, even though they faded. They're in the 8th spot today. If the standings indicated where we'd pick, the Flyers would be picking 14th today. So that's a sizable gap in terms of the quality of player that you can get. And who knows what other kind of magic San Jose might be able to make if they're willing to say, hey, we've had great draft picks. We're going to trade that pick, and we want to get another significant player to play alongside Macklin Celebrini now. It's an exciting thought experiment for the Sharks. It's a little bit less exciting or more dim for the Flyers.
It was amazing how much attention San Jose got, and obviously the MVP talk for Celebrini. And I think your average fan would be shocked that Winnipeg, Seattle, Toronto, the Panthers, the Kings, the Devils, the Predators all have more points than the Sharks. Like, I don't think your average fan right now would not, just from perception, like not your hardcore NHL fan, stat fan, follower like us, where it's also our job, they would say that's false. That is a false statement, that all those teams. And I think, Frank, that the matchups are set in the West. I like them as they are right now. That's going to be Colorado versus Nashville, Anaheim versus Utah, Dallas versus Minnesota, and Vegas versus Edmonton. I actually think the matchups I think there's just enough room in between, despite Utah's sad performance last night. I think they'll figure it out, hopefully learn from it, and really bring it here now in a playoff mode, checking mode that finishes it off. But I think it's a pretty good chance. Those 4 matchups are set: Colorado, Nashville, Anaheim, Utah, Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, Edmonton.
Okay, so take a look at what the math says. These are the West playoff odds. And according to modeling from hockeyviz.com, our boy Micah Blake McCurdy, he says that the LA Kings have a much better chance to get in right now than the Nashville Predators. Now, that's based on how the Kings have played over the last 20 games. It models out and projects their strength of schedule, who they're facing, projecting wins and losses. It factors in a lot of different things, and I think is a really interesting number that maybe I've had to ask myself for a lot of different reasons based on his math. Are we counting out the LA Kings too early? They're only 3 points back of the Preds, who have won 5 in a row. The time is nigh, but the Kings maybe aren't dead yet.
They have the easiest schedule the rest of the way. That's why their odds are like that. But one of those easy schedule the rest of the way teams was Calgary last night. They only got 1 point, so they've lost 4 in a row. They've gotten points, but they've lost 4 in a row. They only have 18 regulation wins, so Nashville's really 4 points ahead of them. If you look at it that way, they would need to pull ahead of Nashville. They're not going to catch them in regulation wins this year because there's only 11 games left for both teams. So certainly it could happen, but I looked at, like I said, I rattled off Nashville's schedule to you earlier in the show, and I think their schedule, I don't know where it ranks, but it's not, to me, it's not a huge one. And they've been obviously better the last 10, 7-2-1, LA 3-3-4. So LA needs to, change that, or LA just can't score. They got 189 goals. Like we talked about, if you're not at 200 right now, you got some issues scoring goals. And like last night in Calgary, they got to win that game. They score first or winning and just can't get that 3-4 goals a game that you need to win, to get these winning streaks.
Well, they're also really banged up. That doesn't help.
Yep.
And I know in Calgary now they're fretting, going, why are we getting points? Why are we piling up wins at this juncture? We shouldn't be. As we look at the East odds quickly, does anything surprise you about the way that the math shakes out and the analytics? I mean, Ottawa, not really a shock at 82, but the fact that they're that far ahead of Boston and Detroit?
Yeah, again, my power rankings, I have, that's where I have Ottawa better than Boston, Detroit, and New York, just as a team. And so with 11 games to go, I would have them, pulling ahead of Boston and by a little bit. Sorry about that, hotel phone. So yeah, I kind of like that. I think those odds were pretty good. Although maybe the Islanders a bit lower, perhaps, than maybe I thought at 37. I would think I would have them, I think, in front of Detroit the way the Red Wings are going recently. But again, it's close. But overall, I kind of like that. Yeah, I'm bullish on obviously Ottawa and Columbus, like I talked about. Pittsburgh, same thing. Even though I know last night's an embarrassing loss, Sid looks good. He's back. Carlson's good. I like what Dubas said. He's not trading Carlson this summer. I think that was a smart soundbite by him, because to energize Carlson, to get him in. And do you believe him?
No, I do. It's just obvious. Why? Like, who's trading a player that's been as good as Carlson is? Like, he works in your salary cap. He fits. He's been otherworldly. Like it was like a thank you, Captain Obvious. I don't know why it became news. Why would you trade a player playing that well that's entering the final year of their deal? It makes no sense.
Well, because it's a weak free agent class, and someone might give you a boatload for him, and it might make sense for your organization 3 years from now if you get, multiple pieces that you feel long term will help.
Housekeeping, would you like me to fluff your pillow?
How about this, though, Doubletree here in Bristol? What a performance. I got my own pillow that I'm kind of sleeping with here in New England at the various hotels, my all-time favorite pillow. I left it here last time I checked out. I called them, hey, could you get my pillow for me? Which is fine. They said, yeah, we'll probably get your pillow. So I check in to my room 2 days ago, and my pillow's in my room already. Like that's the little things in life, Frank. I'd have to go get it, go to Lost and Found. They put my pillow when I walk in. I go, look at that, my pillow's here. I'm not really a travel pillow guy, but
what kind of hotel is
some
this?
of these hotel pillows are bad and my neck hurts.
Yeah. A lot of
Let's ask the insider. Yeah. Let's ask the insider. Let's talk to the chatters. Anybody got anything on their mind, Frank, out there in YouTube land, X land?
Yeah. There's been a lot going on here.
Good. Get involved, people.
A lot of it has been based on your power rankings. How far do you think
people love power rankings?
2x701, what a username. How far do you think Columbus and Buffalo can go in the East? Do their recent runs tire them out at all? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point. I like that point. When you run on adrenaline, and we've talked about this before, and the playoffs go to another level, can you take it to another level? Will you at some point hit a wall? Buffalo is so young and so hungry. I wouldn't think so. But yeah, they do lack experience. Just like I said, Utah lacked experience. So this is Clayton Keller's 10th year in the league, Frank. He's made the playoffs one time. That was COVID. So he hasn't really played in front of a playoff crowd. It's different. And last night's game was different. And Edmonton looked like a team who's been through some wars the last couple of years. And they all checked and they got it done. So, yeah, I think that is possibly something. But to answer the first half of his question was, like I said, I think they can both win multiple rounds. And if there's somehow someone Carolina gets upset in the first round, or even Tampa Bay, which has been a problem for them, but there's no Florida now. It's wide open then. They can beat anybody. I still think Tampa Bay's the favorite because of their experience. Although they're not the biggest team in the league. It's kind of interesting with Hedman kind of nicked up a little bit. You look at their team, they're not a big team. That's something about that team as it's been constructed here recently. Not big fellas. And Buffalo plays a heavy game. Columbus plays a heavy game. But yes, I do believe Columbus and Buffalo, as they're constructed, as they're playing the last multiple months, yes, they can be a factor in the Eastern Conference. I think the East is obviously wide open. The West, very top heavy, less open.
All right, so no roids _ just rage says, hey, Frank, with the addition of Frondell for the Blackhawks top line, I still think we need more size on Bedard's wing. ... Possibly Nyes ? I'd love to see Nyes, Bedard, Frondell. What's your thought? Well, I reported a couple days ago that the Hawks did check in on Matthew Nyes before the trade deadline with Toronto. Didn't go anywhere. And I would say, I don't know if Toronto was even realistically considering moving him. But that prototype or archetype of player, I think you're bang on in terms of how that player with size and physicality would fit. That's one thing that stood out to me watching the Hawks really closely. And someone else pointed out in the chat, mentioned Butchie, you mentioned the idea of getting another dude. Well, Roman Kanserov led the KHL in scoring this year. Another unbelievable prospect that's on the way, a second round pick. But right. I do think the Hawks have been too easy to play against. So really good point by No Roids, Just Rage.
That is. And as we know, one of Toronto's issues has been no elite defenseman. Chicago has multiple defensemen. If there is a trading partner there, I think those two teams could come together in a nice, big, blockbuster-ish trade where, obviously Chicago has defense people. And they could be in a position to get another one in this draft if they, say they pick third and Verhoff is there. Now suddenly they got all this stuff, and that's something Toronto, maybe we get a couple defensemen from Chicago. Like suddenly That's a possible trade because, yeah, to put guys in there, that's what I'm talking about with Chicago. Not just wait to see who among these young players will be dudes and if they'll be dudes, but try to add another dude now, like a 23, 24, 25-year-old to go along with those dudes, because then those dudes will be better, be easier for them to develop and to find their role quicker when you have, guys who are already arrived. So, yeah, that's exciting to think about.
So, a couple other quick questions for you, Butchie, in the chat. Desert Lab 22 wants to know how many other guests slept on that pillow since you were last there.
Well, once I called right away, so they took the pillow out, Desert Dust, Desert Duster, whatever your name is, and they and they put it in the lost and found. So
nice,
yeah. But
I don't
judge.
Top. That's a nice touch. Like, honestly, that they did that.
That it was there in the room. I was very impressed by that. I don't know if they washed my pillowcase. That would have been next level.
Maybe they didn't. Maybe you didn't want them to. Who knows? You don't mess with what works. That's the truth.
I slept on it last night. I was like a baby.
Yeah. All right. And Mechanicsville 804 wants to know, which flavor of ice cream did you choose from Tuesday in State College?
When we had Craig Button on and we asked him the flavors of ice cream that we go to, for him, it's old school chocolate. I respect that. But for me, it's usually strawberry. That's kind of that's my go-to. For some reason, I'm not really a big strawberry guy in any other way. Not a big, I don't like to eat them really. I think it's an awkward fruit to eat. I'm not, it's not a big, but for ice cream, it's my jam.
Was it good?
Not sure why. Very good. Thank you, Frank. Great rec. Hashtag hockey, wrong answers only. Perry after McCarron. I don't know what Corey Perry's doing. He's got multiple. He's got a scoop of ice cream spoon. What you do is after you eat your ice cream, you can use it as a black eye flattener.
What was he doing here? And more to the point, what was he thinking saying yes to Michael McCarron?
He's done it multiple times this year. He's fighting these young men. He doesn't need to do it anymore. I know he's trying to bring something to his team. He was in Edmonton. He's taking, try to get the team going. And maybe he was trying to do that last night. But yeah, Corey, you've done enough, my friend. You do not need to get punched by 6'6" guys who are going to be free agents filled with rage. No roids, just rage.
Well, the worst part was it was a visor cut. It wasn't a cut from the punch. It was because he hit your visor into your face and just mashed it.
Yeah. Got to stop the bleeding. It's like the old X Game athletes. First time I saw, I worked in Providence. That's where the very first X Games were. And when they got injuries, they used super glue. You couldn't get, you're competing. You got to stop the bleeding. So not Band-Aids, they would take super glue and put it on their cuts to stop the bleeding. How about that?
There you go.
Got to speculate to accumulate. Not many choices tonight, Frank. Only 2 games. You got the Eric Lindros unit working right now.
Yeah, and I've been playing like Pat Falloon, not Eric Lindros. Look, it has been a struggle. I had the Red Wings last night because of all the reasons we mentioned with the Sens, back-to-back, depleted blue line. They get Dylan Larkin back. It's a team that they need to run down to stay in the playoff mix, and they came up short. Just a really disappointing, tough one for the Detroit Red Wings and tough one for our bankroll. But looking to bounce back tonight, I'm going Bruins and Sabres over 6.5. The Sabres, we know they can score. They sometimes get into these river hockey games where they trade chances. The Bruins could use a little bit more offensive spunk after their loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I'm going over 6.5 and see if we can go with a total here instead of a team play.
Yeah, it looks like you'll need 5-2-4-3. Can the Bruins, will they give up 5, playing probably defensive hockey early? There's 4-3, your jam. Either way, the math would work. Either way. Good luck, Frank. The last word. You want to throw some shine, some flowers towards Adam Larsson.
I also wanted to give a shout out to the Tampa Bay Lightning and also Kenny Albert on TNT, both of them paying a beautiful tribute to Jesse Pierce, our friend in Minnesota who we lost with her 3 beautiful kids over the weekend. I love to see the tributes pouring in, the GoFundMe, and how supportive the hockey world is. Bill Guerin saying as Minnesota Wild GM that they're here for everyone in the media, and that anyone who has a stake in the game, no matter what you do, player, agent, GM, whoever it is, we're all in this together. I thought that was such an important message to send. But yesterday we closed out the show with a salute to Mika Zibanejad hitting 1,000 games. Interesting that one night later, player picked 2 spots apart from him in that 2011 NHL draft. I don't know why it says 07. I really messed that up. But 2011 NHL draft, Adam Larsson becomes the first defenseman to hit 1,000 games, the 4th overall. And sort of very quietly, this guy just goes about his business, not a lot of fanfare, isn't going to pile up points, does a lot of the dirty work required to make your team successful and compete and win, and just a very balanced player. And hitting 1,000 games, again, the hard way, he doesn't take any nights off. There's no night that he's leaving without a welt or a bruise. And so stick taps to Adam Larsson on hitting 1,000, the first defenseman from that draft class to do it.
Hear, hear. The trade is 1 for 1, Frank. The trade is 1-1. Back to you, Bones. All right. This is Frankly Hockey. I'm going to jump on a plane and go to Loveland, Colorado today. I've never done that before. Minneapolis, Denver, rent a car, drive to Loveland, NCAA regionals. I'll have Denver, Western Michigan, Cornell, and Minnesota State. So I got to study hard for 4 teams, learn them quickly for our broadcast on Friday and Sunday as the NCAA tournament gets underway this week, Frozen 4 in Las Vegas. And just a quick NBA note, looks like the NBA is saying yes, Frank, to Seattle and Vegas. So that means, those hockey, the Golden Knights and Kraken are going to have some company. It's been a nice winter for them, right? They got to own the winter by themselves.
Well, that means, first off, credit to Gary Bettman for making the NHL first in both of those markets. And second, it's really clear that the Kraken and their ownership group led by Samantha Holloway, which recently consolidated and purchased Climate Pledge Arena from Oakview Group, that they are positioning themselves to quite literally dominate the winter and own both teams in the same building. So an expected price tag and bids somewhere between 7 and 10 billion. It makes what the NHL is looking for $2+ billion for the next expansion NHL team seem like a real bargain.
It does. All right. That's what we do. We cover you 1 hour plus every day, all the information you need. Thanks for being a part of our community. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep telling a friend. You can listen to it as a podcast too. Just, you can put your phone in this as you drive. Just don't watch us and drive at the same time, but you can listen to it. We're working on that, people. All right, Frank, I will, I'll see you tomorrow, right? Or am I off
Not tomorrow, but I'll see you Friday.
Can't do it.
And Friday, will you find a place in Loveland, Colorado for some parm with Colby? Like, where will you go?
We'll see. Again, I haven't been to Loveland. Not sure of the area and how it works. We're near a couple of like mall-like situations, so we'll see. But we'll be on the lookout. I'll report live from Loveland. I do the tour of Italy. I don't mind. A little lasagna, Alfredo, and the parm. What
kind of hotel is terrible. This?
I don't look down at Olive Garden. I just don't. All right, I got to go catch an Uber. He'll be here in 10 minutes. Bradley Airport, here I come. That's Frank. I'm Bucci. We'll see you in Colorado. We'll see you every day, Monday through Friday. Frankly Hockey.